Okay, so now that we have the basic things set up to begin writing PHP unit, we're now going to begin to write more test cases. So let's write a few more test cases, and then moving on in the course, we're going to be writing test cases along as we actually introduce something new. All right, so let's get back again to the test editor. And then let's come inside of units and then application test. So I want to add one more test to application test. And this test is just going to test that we're actually able to get the basic data from our application instance. And this data includes our environment, the server time, the log part, and all other things that we're able to do from the application class. So let's add a new test case. So we're going to say public function test it can get basic application dataset from app class. All right, so the first thing we want to do here is to create the application. So this is going to be equal to new application. And then we can now begin to have different assertion. So we could say save. The first assertion that we want to do is to check if the server is running from console. So that should be true because we are running PHP unit from console. So we're going to say assert true application is running from console. And then again, we are going to have another assertion. So we're going to say save assert same. So assert same basically means that we have an expected value, and then we're going to compare that with the actual value that we're getting from the application. So in this case, we want to expect that we get test for the environment because now we are running the environment in test. So we're going to say assert same application get environment. So this is going to fail because we have in our application now in config, we have the value set to local. So that test is going to fail, but that's okay. Then we're going to add another one, save. We're going to assert not null. And this is going to be application get log path. Okay, so when you say assert not null, I think this is pretty much self-explanatory. Basically, we want to ensure that whatever we are getting here is not null. It's actually a valid value. So we will go one step further later when we write another test case to see that we actually have that folder and we have the files inside of the folder. Okay, so but for now, we just keep it simple. And then the last one is going to be save. So by the way, you can also use this, okay? So you can also use this and then say this assert instance of. So we want to assert that the server time is instant of the PHP datetime class. Okay, so datetime class. So remember, when we use instant of, we have to provide the fully qualified name to that specific class. And then we can now say application get server time. Okay, so I expect that we should have one test that fails and the others should pass. And I'm going to just revert this to using save, just so you know that you can actually do that. And then I'm going to run my test suite again. Okay, so now it says that we are actually having one test that fails. So you see 2 tests, 3 assertion, 1 failure. And it gives us information about what actually failed. Expected is test, but the actual is local. So from this test case, we are actually having an assertion where we expect the value that is being returned from a method call to be test, but we actually get local. So we get to fix this. We know that our application is broken somehow, and now we're going to find a way to fix it. So to fix this, it's pretty going to be easy, but it involves us making some basic change to the way our application is currently running. Remember that we have the function, it's running from console. So basically, this function allows us to determine that PHP was being executed from the command line. But then in some environment, when a cron job is running, this function is also going to return something different. Okay, so but in order for us to be sure that we are actually running unit test, we need a different way. So inside of our PHP unit.sml file, we want to add some more options. Okay, so let's scroll down, and here I'm going to add a PHP tag. So right now we have a PHP tag, and then we can actually declare a constant. So we can say const and then give it a name, and then set the name to be equal to PHP unit running or test mode. So we could say PHP unit underscore running, and then give it a value is equal to true. So whenever we run in tests, this is going to be equal to true. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to do this. So let's get rid of this and then get rid of this. And here, bring back the const. Okay. All right, so we can also include other things here like environment variables or just normal variables that we want to use when we are running our tests. In this case, I'm just creating a constant. This is the first step to solving the problem with the failing test. So the second step is for us to actually come inside of app and then modify our app class. So let's come here to appers app.php. We're going to add one more function here. And this function basically is just going to check if we are actually running unit tests, okay? So let's say a public function is test mode. So basically this is going to check for the existence of that constant, okay? And it's also going to check that we are running the application from console. So we are going to say if this is running from console, so if the application is running from console, we want to continue basically, okay? Okay, but then what I want to do is to negate this. So if it is not running from console, just return false. No need to do any other thing, okay? And then we can come down here and then check if that constant is actually defined. So we could then say if defined, so we can use the PHP function to actually check if a specific constant is defined. So the function name is defined, and then we can give it a string, which is the constant name. So just grab this, then put it here. So we want to do two things. We want to check if it is defined and the value is actually equal to true. So let's say this is equal to true. So let's say true, and we are going to return true. So otherwise we just also return false. Okay, so we kind of have so many return statements. We can look for a way to actually make this better. So what we can do is just make this a one-liner. So let's just grab it and then bring this here and then just make it a one-liner. And then remove the negation here, returns true, and then return false otherwise. Okay, so a bit simpler now. So we can type in this to be a boolean. And then what we now need to do is to come where we are actually getting the environment. Okay, now we can now say this is test mode. If that is true, then we just want to return the string test. Otherwise, we want to return the value from config. So let's say test. All right, so this way we can always be sure that we will get test back when we are actually in test mode. So let's now run our test again to see if this solves the problem. And now we are actually getting green. So one more trick that we can do here to make our test really look nicer is to use one option, which is -- test docs. Okay, so when we do this, PHPUnit is going to actually add some really nice comment about the test, which is basically the name of the test case, and then tell us if that test actually passed. Okay, so let's go and see. All right, so you can see how it beautifully shows us here that we are running the test from units application. Okay, the file name is application, the folder name is units, and then you can see that it just gives us this nice sentence by splitting the name of the test case. So it can get instance of application, it can get basic application data set from app class. All right, so which is the two tests that we have there.